like to thank everyone for joining us this morning, a little bit earlier than our usual lunch and learn for IANS, so I guess you could call this a brunch and learn. But we have a very interesting presentation for you today. Antti Ikonen is a project manager and senior advisor with Posiva Solutions. And forgive me if my pronunciation is a little bit off, Antti, but for those of you who've been in the nuclear industry for any length of time, you're probably aware that the lack of having a final disposal facility for spent fuel is an area that's often used by anti-nuclear folks as arguments against, greater use of nuclear. And Finland is farther ahead in this area than just about everybody else in the world. So this will be an interesting presentation. If you'd like to go ahead, Antti.
Thank you, Joseph, for the quick presentation. I really work for Posiva Solutions in Finland, and I've been working for 30 years within the nuclear waste management business area, roughly 22 years related to the spent fuel repository of Posiva in Finland, and probably about 8 years then working for other countries and other nuclear waste management organizations. And today I give you a presentation of the current state of the Finnish spent fuel program. Can you please confirm that my first slide is visible for you all?
I see it.
Okay, good. So let's get started. I have quite a bunch of these slides, but if you have short questions, maybe it's better that you will ask immediately. When I'm sharing my screen, I can't see any other indications except that I can hear your voice. So please just ask, and I try to answer to your questions. And I assume we have this roughly 1 hour for this presentation and questions. Okay, so Posiva is the company responsible for the spent fuel disposal in Finland. In practice, we have only two power plant companies, TVO, which means Teollisuuden Voima, and Fortum, and these two companies owns Posiva. And we have roughly 90 employees, and in addition, we need 100 external person years per every year, and currently we have roughly 150 construction workers also at the site. And I work for Posiva Solutions, which is subsidiary for Posiva, or we are subsidiary for Posiva. And we sell this expertise then for other waste management organizations. And our site looks like this. We operate on Olkiluoto Island. There we have 3 power plant units, Olkiluoto 1 and 2, and now Olkiluoto 3 has been running for a few months now. And on this same island, we have the spent fuel storage, which in our case is a wet pool storage. And then we have the repository for low and intermediate level waste, which is for the operational waste from the running NPP units. It's been running already since '92. And later on, we will expand that repository for the decommissioning waste from the current power plant units. And then here, the lower part of the photo, you can see the spent nuclear fuel disposal facility area. It's called Onkalo, and the construction has almost completed for the first phase, but more about that then later on. But in practice, we have all stages of the nuclear power production and all the way to the disposal on the same island for all waste types. And from the running units, the spent fuel is transferred to the interim storage with this kind of vehicle, and we will use same type of transfer cask and vehicle for also transferring the spent fuel from the spent fuel storage to the encapsulation plant, which is less than 2 miles from these power plant units. But in the other case, for our other owner, the distance is wider and longer. It's roughly 300 kilometers, and for that transfer or transport, we will use either rail or then sea transport. This is the overall schedule. We have done this project or program for 40 years already. We started in the late 70s with the first studies. The first 20 years we used for site investigation, site selection, and then, of course, the concept development. And at the lower part of the figure, you can see the decisions that need to be done by the different authorities, or which has been done and what will be needed in the future. So the government made a decision of the total schedule in 1983, and there they gave us the overall schedule that around 2000 we should have the site selected. 10 years later, we should be able to start the construction, and around 2020 we should be able to start the operation of the disposal facility. And we have been able to follow that schedule set by government more or less. And the site investigation stage was then ended when we left the application for decision in principle, and we got the decision in principle in the beginning of 2000. Was 2001 the ratification of that decision, and that's the point in our country after which the Posiva can start to make bigger investments for this program, and after that we were able to start the underground rock characterization facility, which was named Onkalo at that time, but after we have using that name for so many years, now we have decided to use the same nickname also for the actual repository that is now constructed. And after the site selection, we were able to start the detailed design of the concept and the underground and above ground facilities, also to produce the construction license application, and we received the construction license in 2015. And after that, we were able to start the underground excavations for the actual repository part, which includes the deposition tunnels and deposition holes. Before that, we had built this rock characterization facility, which will be part, and each and every tunnel there, which will be part of the actual repository, and they serve as an access routes or other auxiliary rooms of the disposal facility. And then we left the application for operating license in 2021, and at the moment we are at this point doing the commissioning work of the encapsulation plant and disposal facility, and waiting for the operating license. We assume to have that next year, and after that we are able to start the actual operation. And even after that, we need to update our safety assessment every 15 years. And the operating time of the facility is roughly 100 years. So the final closure will be then around 2120. So here we are now in this picture. And then let's look at shortly about the concept for our final disposal. It has been quite surprising that the basic concept has not changed a lot, even though the manufacturing technologies and many details has been changed, but the actual concept has been quite same for a very, very long time. It's so-called KBS3 concept. It's in practice identical with the Swedish SKB. And there, the basic idea is to have the fuel pellets in the fuel rods and just normal commercial nuclear power plant fuel assembly, which will be then put in a insert. It's cast iron insert. There are a little bit different shapes and different kind of positions for the fuel assemblies. And this canister insert will have this copper overpack. In our case, it's at the moment it's 50 millimeters thick. And then we will take that canister to the depth of roughly 400 meters, put it in the deposition hole, and the canister there will be surrounded with a bentonite clay buffer, and the tunnel above will be backfilled with bentonite material, which will then prevent the swelling of the buffer bentonite to the deposition tunnel and avoid losing the density of the buffer in the deposition holes. And above that, then 400 meters of crystalline rock. So that's our concept, which we follow. And this concept development work has been very demanding. It has taken for 30, almost 40 years. And of course, the technical readiness level has been then got more mature. And at the moment, we have done the full scale in situ tests, and we are heading to the trial run of final disposal. So we are now already in this green area in the readiness level in that sense. But it's really an iterative and stepwise development, and how we are being able to get to this point. Then a few words about the site selection, which was done in 80s and 90s. We started to look at the whole Finland area, and we were able to identify roughly 100 potential sites. It was just done purely like a desktop study. Then we were able to choose 5 potential sites where the preliminary site characterization work was done. Then during that time also the deep boreholes were drilled to the different sites, and all different kind of measurements also in these boreholes were done. Then in 1993 we shrank the number of potential sites to 3 actually, and then when the other power plant company was Fortum found TVO, and actually Posiva was established during that time, then also it was quite logical that Loviisa site was also studied. It was kind of brought there from the sideline, but then we had 4 potential sites, and then at the end in 2001 Posiva decided to apply the decision in principle, and we included only one site to that application, and that was Eurajoki. We could have put there more, but then I think there could have been a possibility that the politicians would have started some kind of bargain that what would be the right site, and it was more clear that we brought only one site, one community for this application of decision in principle. And then we were able to start the underground rock characterization facility construction works, and the volume of that URL is shown in this picture here. Any questions at this point?
Sorry, I was muted there. Are your storage canisters retrievable?
Yes, we have this requirement for retrieval, that during the operation we must be able to retrieve the canisters, so at least until 2120. And we have designed the canisters and the system so that they can be retrieved also after that, but the basic rule there is that after we have shown for the authorities that after 100 years that we have done all the disposal work and done all the backfilling and plugging in an acceptable way, so that it's all safe, and when the regulators find that okay, this is the case, then the ownership of the spent fuel goes for the government. So after that point, if they accept all the work that has been done, including the sealing and plugging and closing the whole facility, then after that they have the ownership, and if they decide after that for a reason or another that they want to retrieve the fuel, then those operations and costs need to be covered by the government. It's not anymore the responsible power plant companies, which are now in charge and responsible for all the costs and all the development and all the building and operating work.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, and here are a few grounds for proposing Olkiluoto. That I already told you one, which is not on the list, but that was the case. So from the long-term safety point of view, there was no big differences between the last 4 potential sites. So in most cases, the differences within one potential site might be bigger than between 2 separate sites. So there were no remarkable difference in that way. Then the Olkiluoto area was quite wide, so we had there more flexibility for construction and all the layout adaptation work. That was totally different, for example, for Loviisa site, which was then very small island, because we wanted to keep inside the shoreline with the facility. And then most of the spent fuel is already in Olkiluoto, and more spent fuel is produced in Olkiluoto, so the transportations are minimized also this way. And of course, there is also existing local nuclear infrastructure, which we have been able to use, and the majority of the local people were ready to accept the siting, and the negative psychosocial effects were assessed to be the smallest in this case. And they have also, in the Eurajoki community, they have adopted this as an important part of their strategy for the future. So they are really focused on the electricity production and all related issues. And also, not only local, but also national opinions favor the siting of the repository near the existing power plants. Then after the site selection, it took a few years to start the actual construction work of this underground rock characterization facility. But when it was able to start this construction work, then of course the investigations also went in the rock. So before that, we have done, of course, dozens of drilled holes and done a lot of investigations from above ground, but then we were able to do that work also underground. We also developed their rock construction methods, because all traditional tunneling methods were not allowed to use here because of several reasons, like, for example, chemistry of certain grouting materials were not very favorable for the bentonite buffer, for example. And we built there many test tunnels and did some demonstrations and tests already when constructing the spiral-shaped access tunnel to the depths. And we drilled also underground test holes and pilot holes and done that kind of activities. And as I already mentioned that the Onkalo has been always designed to be essential part of the final disposal facility, which is different from many cases and from many underground research laboratories, which are more general, and they have told that there will be never ever any nuclear waste in most of the URLs. In total, we have roughly 7 kilometers of excavated tunnels and shafts there, and it reaches the disposal level, so minus 420 meters below the sea level is the starting point for the repository openings. And there are also some technical rooms or auxiliary rooms close to the shaft areas here. And then after 100 years, we have took several excavation phases, stepwise stages to expand our facility. And our total capacity is 6,500 tons of uranium. And the total volume is roughly 2 million cubic meters. And at the end, we have roughly 50 kilometers of tunnels in this system. And the basic idea is to start from the central area and first study in detail the bedrock from this area, and then step by step go further on. In this way, we can also share the investment cost and investigation costs for a longer time of period. Okay, then if we look at the above ground facilities, I will tell you only about this most important encapsulation plant. This is from last year. It looks roughly the same. I was there day before yesterday. The most important difference is now that we have all the security systems around, and it's not allowed to take a photo or not at least show it to you. So there is no big difference. Many fences and stuff like that. And I make the tour there also. It more or less looks like this. So different kind of installation works are ongoing. Quite many of they are also already installed, but that's how it looks like at the moment there. And I have short animation. Well, this is not very short, it's 5 minutes, but I think that will tell you most clear way that what is done there. And I will now, I will show it from here. And please say aloud if it doesn't work or if you can't hear.
Can see the video, we're not getting the audio. Antti, do you have the links for these videos in your presentation slides that we can share later?
Okay. So it was
Very interesting.
quite fast. But any questions related to that? I must say that I'm not an expert in the encapsulation area, but more or less the underground design. But please, if you have anything. Sorry.
You know what kind of dose rates you see on the outside of those copper canisters?
Sorry. Yeah, please, did you have anything to ask?
Yeah, well, there are some questions going into the chat, and we'll go through those at the end.
Okay, thank you. Okay, but that's about the encapsulation process. So in that animation, all the geometry is exactly as they are now there, because they are from our 3D models, which have been used for production and building and commissioning work. But because we have this animation, I don't need to go through these principles of the encapsulation. If we don't need to come back to those at the end of the presentation, and we can continue to underground openings. So there, all the shafts has been raised bored, and almost all the furnishing of the shafts has been done. This photo is from the canister shaft, and canister hoist installations are ongoing there at the moment. Also, the personal shaft and personal lift is under installation and commissioning work. Here you can see the ropes of the personal shaft and some other photos, some cable ladders and stuff like that, piping and such. Here are a few photos from the auxiliary rooms. So this is from on the left corner. This is from the maintenance hall. We can do some repairs for some of our equipment there. So everything is not needed to take 500 meters on vertical to the above ground, and some parking halls and different kind of auxiliary rooms. These auxiliary rooms are mostly located close to the shafts in this area. We have shared this area to controlled and non-controlled area for the operating phase. At the beginning of next year, actually we started in some parts of the so-called trial run already at the end of this year, but that would be then the final phase, preparing for the operating of the Deep Geological Repository Onkalo. And it will be carried out with the methods, procedures, equipment, and personnel to be used in the actual operating phase. And there we will, for example, do the fuel transfers from the interim spent fuel storage to the encapsulation plant, and of course also from the encapsulation plant all the way to the repository level and there to the deposition holes. Then it includes the encapsulation of 5 canisters, then the final disposal of those. Actually, 4 of those will be disposed of in a 70-meter long deposition tunnel, and also it will be backfilled, and also the plug will be casted to the tunnel at the end of the trial run or final disposal. And we also take the 5th canisters to the repository level and check that how this retrievability is done. We need to demonstrate that part also for our regulator, that we will bring the canister back to the encapsulation plant, and we will run this encapsulation process opposite way, so that we will open the canister and retrieve the spent fuel bundles back to the transfer cask, so that it's possible to take them to some other place to do then something whatever is assumed to be the reason why they are retrieved. or then if there is nothing wrong with the fuel, then we just, and there could have been some problem with the canister, then we just take a new canister and put the same fuel bundles there and do the process again. But that's most of the trial run scope there. And it's also possible for other waste management organizations to participate to this and learn how we succeed in this. I'm sure everything is not going smoothly, like 100% of all the different phases, but the participants are able to also learn from the mistakes and that we will do, and in that sense we are very open and tell all the results and experiences that the other participants does not need to make the same mistakes as probably or we might do during the trial run. Okay, and at this point I will show you then the shorter animation of the underground disposal. Let's see, is it this one? Yes.
We're getting the video, but no audio. But if it's just music, it's okay. Very impressive.
Okay. And then we can continue. So a few words about the operating license. As you can imagine, it's quite a bunch of paper, actually 17,000 pages of electronic document. And it was submitted for the Finnish authorities at the end of 21. And actually on Wednesday, we were able to, at least I assume that we were able to answer to the final last additional questions, and we are waiting for the Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority's decision for this application during next year. I don't know which time, maybe summer or but probably by the end of 2024 we will get the answer from there. That's the current schedule for the operating license, and it included a lot of things. So safety had to be demonstrated for operating, commissioning. We had to show the personal management processes, of course, the plans and technology. Then nuclear safety, radiation safety, environmental safety, different waste management measures. Actually, in this picture, we don't have only the high-level waste repository. We have designed here also the low and intermediate level waste repository at the depth of 180 meters, which will be built later on, because the other low and intermediate level waste repository, which was presented in the slide number 2, I think, here, that will host the decommissioning waste also from the nuclear power plant units, but that will be closed roughly 30 years before the disposal facility for high-level waste. So we need also a small repository for our operating waste for low and intermediate level waste. But it was also included in this operating license application as detailed as is needed at this point. Also the waste management measures and of course the long-term safety was in high priority. And this application was now shared for actually 2 nuclear facilities. The other one is the encapsulation plant, and the other one is the repository. During the construction license, we more or less had 2 different applications for construction license, but at this operating license application, we combined them. So there's only one shared application for the whole system. Okay, then a few words about the public acceptance. As you know, it could be even the biggest challenge in most countries related to high-level waste disposal. So during the 1990s, the main issues that the general public brought up was related to image and safety, and then on the other hand, benefits, especially in the local area. So people were more or less worried about the impact on tourism, markets of local agricultural products, impacts on housing and their real estate markets, and impact then on overall quality of life, like these psychosocial effects. And safety was quite challenging to speak with the general public, so they were worried about the releases, of course, and also the transportation accidents, and also it's challenging to tell them that how we can scientifically and technically assess such a long time periods that are involved related to this long-term safety. And the locals were also interested on the positive effects, that how much the community gets taxes from these plants, and what kind of employment opportunities they offer, and these kind of benefits. In Finland, we don't have any kind of compensation system or such. So it's totally comparable to any other industrial, if it's a paper mill or any other industrial activity. They bring the same benefits that real estate tax is paid for the community that hosts these facilities, and then the people who work there, they pay their taxes to their hometown, so that the people who live in this Eurajoki community, they will pay their taxes there. But then it's also good that because people are coming to work on Olkiluoto Island from the range of, let's say, 50 to 100 kilometers, maybe until 70 miles. So there are several different communities and towns there. So they all benefit. If the employer lives there, then they will get the tax revenues from those employers. Here are some studies of the influence on disposal on the attractiveness of Eurajoki community before and after the site selection, and it quite clearly shows that the attractiveness of local products, this 98 was before the site selection, and the worries have shrunk quite dramatically from, like, this study was done 5 years after the site selection. So it looks like people worries a bit too much, and then when they find out the real outcome, then it looks much better. And also the benefits looks a bit bigger after they really see that yes, it brought more jobs to the area and more activity and such things. So this is some statistics of the how people felt about these issues. This figure then just reminds me and hopefully everyone else about the huge number of different stakeholders, and we always need to remember that when discussing with different stakeholders, you cannot go to the authorities with the same slideshow as you go for the public, for example. That's quite clear, and we really need to always think that who is the audience, who is the stakeholders we are involved with, and then bring our message to the right level and focus on the issues that are important for each of different stakeholders. And in Finland, the host municipality has a veto right, and they can use that related to the decision in principle, which in our case was also the timing for the site selection. So when Posiva did all these site investigations from above ground, all the geophysics and drilled test holes and investigation holes, that is allowed to be done if you have the permit from the landowner. But then when this decision in principle is done in that stage, the community just can say that no, thank you, it's not a good idea, we just don't like it, and they can refuse about of the project. But then if they say yes, then after that they are not allowed to refuse from this plant if we can show that everything is all the requirements are fulfilled and everything is safe, and we get the license from the Radiation Safety Authority. Then there is no way that they they can take back their word. And in 2000, it was quite clear that only 7 voted against and 20 was for this Posiva's repository to Eurajoki. And then the decision was also ratification was done in the parliament in spring 2001, and there the numbers were even more clear. So only 3 voted against and 159 was for this project. And the arguments at that time in the parliament was that aiming at final disposal is better solution than doing nothing, that just having those spent fuel bundles in the water pools for time that nobody knows. And also it was brought up that this option for retrievability need to be maintained. And I already answered to this question quite widely, how it's been handled then. And also the general thinking that the present generation need to take responsibility of this process and these projects for nuclear waste, because this generation has also got the benefits from the electricity that has been generated. Here's also answers to the question in the annual poll, and the wording is that nuclear waste can be safely stored in a repository in the bedrock of Finland. Do you agree? And here we can see that from 1990s until, well, this goes only to 21, but people are more in favor for us that when we started this study, that more than half was disagreeing with this sentence, but now it's roughly 1/3 in whole Finland. And the Fukushima can be seen with this 2011, I think it was this where there was a small deviation in the trend.
Interesting.
And then how people, what's their trust in different institutions related to nuclear waste management. And the number one, the gold medalist in Finland, is the radiation safety regulator STUK. They are most trustworthy in people's minds. And Posiva is the silver medalist here, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry comes on the 3rd place. Then these utilities, this TVO is the nuclear power plant operator in Eurajoki, and this other one is another company, it's Fennovoima, which were supposed to build a new power plant unit to the northern Finland, but that has been now cancelled. So this was done for that project, and that's why that company is also on the list. And the government is here, and then the Greenpeace keeps the last position here, and this Pro Hanhikivi is a local non-governmental organization in Pyhäjoki. So this is the feeling of Finns related to the different institutions and waste management. Then the public acceptance in our case is based on probably on these three issues. The first is the trust and transparency. So it has taken a long time to earn the trust, and if we are not transparency, we could lose it in few minutes. So we never risk this under any circumstances. We have so long track record now that we cannot lose this one. And then another important issue is the independent and trusted authorities, because it makes everything much more easier if you have clear processes and responsibilities and roles for different authorities that they never overlap, for example, and then it makes this game much more clear to play. And we have found out that people's own good and long experience of reliable and employing, tax-paying and transparent nuclear industry brings us the local acceptance, so that like Eurajoki is such a small town that I think that everyone there knows someone who works in Olkiluoto Island, and probably they are fishing together or playing football in the same team, but they know that these are reliable guys, and I can trust them. So it builds the whole trust for all the companies which are working on the Olkiluoto Island related to different nuclear facilities. And IAEA's Director General, Mr. Grossi, visited us, and he was also quite impressed. So he told that this is kind of a game changer, that if the Finns can do it, then the other ones can do it also, and it brings or it shows that nuclear power can be safe also at the end of the life cycle of nuclear fuel. And yes, we are ready to help the other organizations around the world with related to our experiences. I think that if we have spent now 40 years to get this point, we still do a couple of years and we get the facility running, then I think if we would need to do everything again, we would not need 40 years, maybe 20 or even 15 would be enough. We would not need to do all the mistakes and take the wrong paths we have done. I think we could and we can give guidance for other organizations and then help them with their different kind of geologies and different kind of waste packages or whichever. I think it could be worth to think that take our experience in use. So I think we have the solution for final disposal of spent fuel. And that was my last slide. There are some of our clients there, and some links to YouTube and other data of Posiva and Posiva solutions. Okay.
Very nice. We do have a
Only
few questions
2 minutes
in the
left,
chat.
but I have time. So please, any questions?
Okay, it's very, very interesting, and I'm glad you included all the information about the public acceptance and that polling data. That's the field I work in, is public awareness and acceptance of nuclear. So that's very interesting. But I'll go through a few questions on the chat really quickly. I think a lot of folks have to move on to their next meetings today. So, and yeah, you already caught the question about when they do the backfilling of the drifts after, when you get close to final closure. Next question was from Bob Youngblood. The emplacement video looks more automated than I recall early US designs being. Where do humans have to go in the repository, and what is the environment like for them?
Okay, so the first question is related to the backfill. So the deposition tunnels, each deposition tunnel, the maximum length is like 330 meters. And there it depends on the water leakage that how quickly the deposition tunnel is backfilled with granular bentonite. And our target is that we would be able to put first all the canisters in the deposition holes or disposal holes and surround them with the buffer, and then we would backfill the one tunnel at a time. But if there is more water leakage at some point, we could do also so that we would backfill the deposition tunnel in 2 or 3 phases. First put like 10 canisters and then do the backfill above them, and then do the next 10, or it depends on the case. And then if it's a question about the backfilling of other underground openings and tunnels, these so-called central tunnels, which connects the deposition tunnels, they can be backfilled in some stages, but then most of the auxiliary rooms and access routes, access tunnels, in this picture, for example, if we have this kind of system of roughly 12, let's say 24 to 30 deposition tunnels, and when all these has been used, then we will build plugs here, or first backfill the central tunnels and build plugs here. So it could be like after 20 years of operating, and then we continue to the other direction. But then all the other backfilling is done then after 100 years for these other underground openings. Did I answer to the question related to the backfill?
I think so.
Okay, and did I understood right the other question? It was related to working conditions underground, that what kind of they are is in general for the
Yes.
workers. Okay, so it's the depth is 400 meters, so we get roughly 1.5 degrees more temperature per each 100 meters in depth, so it's roughly, let's say, 15 degrees there, the temperature. It's quite traditional underground excavation or tunneling conditions there when we do these excavation campaigns for in the uncontrolled area. It's quite traditional tunneling, and we use drill and blast method there. Then on the controlled area, where the installation of canisters to the deposition holes and also the installation of buffer surrounding the canister is done, then the access is of course controlled, and these operations are done remotely. But as in the animation, it was told that it's also possible there are radiation shields, so that if something special would happen, it's also possible to get closer to the equipment. But after installation of is it like 3 slices of the bentonite buffer above the canister, you can already walk there above the canister. So it's roughly, yeah, when the bentonite rings has been put there, and the blocks of the buffer, bentonite buffer, that you can walk there. It gives the needed radiation shield for workers. So that's pretty much in short. I hope I was answering to the right question, but please ask more or more detailed.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is, what are the long-term monitoring requirements once the facility is full and the building's decommissioned? And then have you looked at how quickly fuel could be retrieved from underground if it's ever needed in the future?
The monitoring, we have done monitoring for a very long time, because you also need the baseline before you dig any hole to the ground. So we need to have several years of baseline monitoring to know the initial state of the site. And then, of course, we are currently doing the monitoring work all the time so that we can see the effects of the tunneling and doing the shafts and all our other activities. And then after the closure, so after 100 years, I'm not an expert of the monitoring, but I can't remember that I would have read any report related to the post-closure monitoring. But I know that when I told you that if and when this is acceptably backfilled and closed and plugged, this whole facility, and this decommissioning work has been done, when the ownership of the spent fuel is transferred to the government, at the same point we also need to give a certain amount of money for the government for monitoring purposes. So then it's up to the government that how they want to use that money for monitoring or some other related purposes. But the requirement for us is that this needs to be done in a way that no monitoring is needed. But one requirement is that all the information need to be stored in a manner that can be used for a very, very long time after, also after the post-closure. So that's quite challenging, that because we know that quite many file formats are not usable anymore, which were used like 10 or even 20 years ago.
Okay.
So sorry, I was not able to answer in detail that what kind of monitoring, but in principle, no monitoring is needed, and we just give the money. But I think we have 100 years to think more thoroughly that what is done in detail. Maybe we will give some kind of recommendation at least.
Makes sense. And then one last question. When do you expect to start full operations?
We are assuming that we start with the first deposition or disposal tunnel during 2025. If I would need to guess, I would say that it's the second half of 25, but we don't bet for that yet. But next year we will do the trial run with the dummy fuel bundles, and then in 25 we should receive the operating license in next year, and then we are able to start the operation in 2025. That's our current target.
Very good. Thank you. Well, this has been very fascinating. I really appreciate you taking the time to present this for us. I know it's later in the evening for you. I suspect you're going to get a lot of visits from around the world, since you've now, you've kind of set the template for how to do this right. So if there's no other questions, I'll go ahead and wrap up. I'd like your permission to share the video of the meeting and your slides, if you're okay with that. Yes,
it's fine. I was prepared for this question, and you can share it for the participants of this.
Okay. Yeah, I think we topped out at 63 viewers, which is a record for us for the last 3 or 4 years. So a lot of interest in this topic. And again, thank you very much. And everyone, stay tuned for our next Lunch and Learn. We'll announce that pretty soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.